Hey everybody, I am Maya and it is Mental Health Awareness Month. Welcome back to my channel if you are not new, and welcome if you are. I'm very pleased to be meeting you and to make your acquaintance or to see you again, whichever category you fall into. Today, we will be talking about mental health and novels. So we'll talk about mental health first, and then we'll talk about mental health in novels. Before I get into this video, of course, I'll just preface by saying if any of the topics we're going to discuss here they'll relate to all things mental health and mental illness. If those will upset you, feel free to click away. I'll link some sort of fun video up here for you to watch instead. Maybe some cats. So, mental illness is not an uncommon phenomenon in any family, but it's quite prevalent in my own, and I'm unfortunately no exception. I suffer from extreme clinical depression, social anxiety, OCD, and I have struggled with eating disorders and body dysmorphia in the past. For this reason, I feel like I have, not necessarily unique, because mental illness is not by any means rare, but I have an ability to read books that talk about mental health and interpret them in a different way. I'm more able to tell people based on my own experience whether or not that book is an accurate reflection of mental illnesses. Of course, mental illness looks different for everybody. My struggles are not going to be the same as yours. My symptoms and triggers are not going to be the same as yours. But I feel like generally I am pretty okay at discussing what is appropriate and done well in books that discuss mental health and what is not done so well. Let's start off with a book I think is incredibly well researched and written. That is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. I am a big fan. This is potentially my favorite coming-of-age novel. The Perks of Being a Wallflower follows Charlie, who is going to be a freshman in high school, and he suffers from depression. He has very few friends, he's quite awkward, he's very shy, and we learn throughout the novel that he experienced quite a ton of trauma throughout his life. A lot of his friends and even family members in the novel also struggle from different forms of mental illness, and the story as a whole is a coming-of-age tale about people banding together to really recognize the full potential and beauty of life. This book does a really wonderful job of portraying Charlie's experiences without belittling them or stigmatizing them. They just make it seem like a part of his everyday life, which is exactly what mental illness is. It's not an on and off switch. It's something you have to cope with, and that's a little bit different every single day. And I felt like the novel was really consistent in that manner, and I felt like it reflected mental illness in a way that was not romanticized. Of course, there's the whole discussion about 13 Reasons Why. I think I watched the first episode. I have read the book. That is not a good representation, in my opinion, of mental illness, solely for the fact that it romanticizes it. It is cool in our culture now to suffer from depression. It's cool to be mentally ill. It's kind of been a romanticized thing in the media, and that's super unfortunate. I've never seen a movie or a book or just anything. I've never seen anything romanticized like breaking a leg, cobbling around with crutches, and No. Mental illness is no different from something like breaking your leg. It's another facet of your health, and one that needs to be cared for just as much as, say, physical or emotional well-being. So Perks of Being a Wallflower is way up there for me. I think that Stephen Chbosky dealt with the depth and difficulty of the topics he discussed very maturely and very incredibly eloquently. He's just an incredible writer. I have his novel Imaginary Friend on my TBR back burner, so I can't wait to check that out. Now I'd like to discuss a novel that really hits home for me, and that is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I read this novel last summer. My friend Lily recommended it to me. She'd read it. I took her advice, and I did love it. It's beautiful. It follows the story of Jude, Willem, JB, and Malcolm. They're four friends living in New York City, and it follows them throughout their entire life span. And it shows the tragedies they go through, the beautiful moments, the slow, regular, everyday moments in between. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous book. That being said, I feel like this novel was an accurate representation of mental illness to the point where it was triggering to read. A Little Life is often criticized for being quote-unquote torture porn, and I cannot disagree with this. I found it incredibly difficult to read. I had to put it down a lot. There's a ton of domestic abuse and sexual abuse. There's a lot of suicidal thoughts and self-harm in the novel, and it's quite explicit. It's quite graphic. It's not just you know that it's happening, it's that you go into it. I'd suggest you check out Kat's video from Paperback Dreams, where she has an entire vlog devoted to this novel. Her reaction
Okay.
is pretty much the standard reaction to this book. If you are curious, do check it out. I will link it down below. For me, I was fortunate enough to be able to read it in a time in my life where I was ready to read it, but I feel like had I picked this up even a month earlier than I did, it would have quite messed me up. For those of you who don't know me, last year and kind of the year before were the years that I really started to get help from mental illness. I started to go to therapy, and psychologists and psychiatrists and all the sterile white offices with cat posters telling you that your feelings are valid. That's when I started, and it has transformed my life. I am a huge advocate for therapy. I think that everyone should have access to mental health services, but last year was the time in my life where I started to go on medication. I'm currently on 2 or 3 medications for depression, anxiety, and OCD. I have this pill box. I'm gonna have to take some footage of my pill box because I am proud of my pill box. It's color-coded, and it has like the days of the week, and it starts with Sunday, which annoys me because everyone knows Monday is the beginning of the week. But I will say I will be an incredible geriatric one day. I've got my pill box all organized. It's stellar. It's really great. Anyway, because that was a point in my life where I was starting to get help, I feel like this book was okay for me to read. But I can't help but wonder, had I picked up that novel in a different place in my life when I was struggling more, I feel like it really would have done more harm than good for me. Not that it necessarily romanticizes mental illness. It's made very clear that it's something that is a real struggle and poses true challenges to these characters' lives. But it's just very, very, very in-depth, very meticulous and graphic to the point where it's really difficult to read, and sometimes you come away from it thinking, well, that could have been omitted from the novel and not really changed the story at all. So the 3 examples in this video I feel like have shown a pretty wide range of mental health in novels. You've got The Perks of Being a Wallflower, which I think did a exemplary job showing mental illness in novels. You've got 13 Reasons Why, which I think is on the opposite end. I think it's almost pure romanticization. Romanticization. And it also frames suicide as a form of revenge, and that is, in most cases, almost all cases, I don't want to generalize too much, but that's not what suicide is. It's not a revenge tactic, you know? And then in the middle, you've got A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I feel like it was portrayed accurately, but almost too accurately to the point where it was damaging to my mental health. I don't want literature to hurt people. I think that at the end of the day, literature should be something that is soothing and healing. And of course, it can make us feel things that aren't positive, but we should come away from it feeling ultimately like there is hope and there is optimism and there is something to look forward to in our lives. And sometimes A Little Life just felt like just constant beating downs. Like, you love this character? Here's why you should love this character. Spoon feeding you reasons to love this character. And now I'm just going to smash your heart until it's like the teacup that Neville drops in Professor Trelawney's classroom. Over the years, we've made some huge progress and some large strides with mental health in novels. To me, this correlates kind of with a phenomenon called insta-poetry, which I made a video about and I will link above. They deal often with sexual assault and the mental illnesses and health issues that these women often, not always women, but often are facing. I'm really grateful that our society and that our authors have begun to tackle mental health and illness as a topic without stigmatizing it too much. It obviously still carries quite a bit of stigma. It has the whole romanticization aspect that we talked about. But at the end of the day, we're making progress, and I'm so excited about that. I can't wait to see where we are with literature and mental health 30 or 40 years from now. I'll let you know. I should be about 56. Holy smokes. But yeah, it's Mental Health Awareness Month, so I just thought I'd talk about this. If you or a loved one are struggling with your mental health, that's a-okay. Struggling is a part of life, but please know that help is available to you, and as cliche as it sounds, everything works out in the end. I pinky promise. And I will include some resources down below. If you need to check those out, feel free. I send all of my love and a bag of chips. And yeah. Oh, and thank you for tuning in.